Matthew J. Wilson is the resident law professor and director of the doctorate and LLM programs at the Temple University in Japan. He's asked that I give a really brief bio because he'll take care of the rest of his introduction in his lecture. So we'd like to turn the time over to him.
I appreciate that. Let's see if I get set up here. Anyway, welcome here. Appreciate you taking valuable time out of your schedule to come and listen to me today. Those of you who are in the back, feel free to scoot up. If not, feel free to stay there because I was always a back row person myself, so I understand. But I really enjoy speaking in front of groups, particularly on this topic. To give you a little background, Temple University, which is based in Philadelphia, actually has a branch campus in Japan. And over in Japan, I actually teach law as part of the law program. In addition, I'm also associate dean of a campus that's about 2,000 people, and so I'm over the MBA program, corporate education, and continuing education as well. And about 18 months ago, I was practicing law in Florida. And with all of the hurricanes, I guess I'm glad I'm not practicing law in Florida anymore. But Temple University actually called and asked me to become a professor and then to be the director of their program over in Japan. And I'll talk to you a little bit throughout my presentation today about some of my background and some of the ideas that I found out to hopefully help you out. But this is actually the third time that I've given this presentation. After moving to Japan, I decided to get involved with the local members, and I set up a speaker series seminar to guide and talk to people about education and talk to them about careers and how the two interrelate. Apparently, some people enjoyed my presentation enough that Elder Kikuchi, you've probably heard of him, he's in the area presidency in Japan, thought that it would be a good idea if I would give the same presentation both at BYU Hawaii and here at BYU as I'm traveling around speaking at various law schools. So here I am today. It's going to be a good presentation, I hope. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share to you some of my ideas about education and what it's all about, and then how that translates into careers. Because I found certain things along the road, and basically what I want to do is share those with you. And so what I'm going to do is the theme of my presentation is really distinguishing yourself, and I'll get to that later. But I'm going to talk to you about the ultimate road trip from campus to career, and talk to you about keys to successful education and career. So with that being said, over the next 50 minutes, I hope that I can share some ideas with you that might stick. And the first place that I want to start is, you notice I'm going to play off this road theme a little bit. In fact, as you're going down a road, one of the things that you often find handy is a map. And so let's first talk about a map. And let's talk about the map to your future. The first thing that I think is very important when you think about education and careers is actually getting out and understanding yourself. Ask yourself these questions. What do you like to do? What activities satisfy your interests and curiosities? What are your interests and talents? Do you like to be challenged? One question that I like to ask people is, have you ever sat down and thought what you can do better than 20 other people? Doesn't matter if the 20 other people are here in BYU, whether or not across the United States, in the world, what do you do better than 20 other people? Once you start to understand the answer to that question, I think you'll get a better idea of what your map looks like and what direction it might be. Because basically, how you answer those questions relate to your education and your planned career. Now, in my case, and granted I might be unusual, I don't know where I fall along the spectrum, but at the age of 7 years old, I knew that I wanted to be an attorney. Kind of interesting. And because I knew that I wanted to be an attorney, my whole life, whatever I've done, I've tried to prepare myself and develop steps so that I could go about and do that. Well, I understand there's a lot of people that don't know, even at college level, even after they get done studying, exactly what they want to do. And one of the reasons why is I think you need to take some time and actually reflect and sit back and think, okay, what are these answers to the questions, and how can I go about doing them? Well, let me talk to you about exactly where you're going. We've been talking about a map. Ask yourself, which direction do you want to go in life? What experience do you already have, and what experience can you get? Always a good question is to think, are you headed in the right direction? Always remember your experiences and interests will become your resume. So whatever you do, there's a lot of times where you have pressures. There's pressures of money, pressures of family. You need to go out and do things. But whatever you do, you need to make sure that you can draw out on that experience. Just don't do something to do it. Try and actually use it as a stepping stone. I've tried to do that in whatever I've done. For example, when I was in high school, because I wanted to become an attorney, I joined the debate club so that I could get in and talk. When I went to university, the first thing that I did was I got a job at the law library so that I could learn more about what attorneys did. Now, mind you, I did take some jobs that really didn't relate to what I wanted to do. They were more economical. But when I was working at the law library, I needed a little more income, and so I worked as a delivery person at a pharmacy. I can tell you in looking at my resume that delivery job is not there. My law library experience is, though. The reason being is because when somebody actually looks at my resume, they understand, okay, this is something that makes him more valuable. The more value you have, the better off you are. And I'll talk to you about that more later, see if I'm going the right way. So, how do you go about finding the right path for you? Make your dreams your goals. Generate the desire and the energy to focus on your goals, have the right attitude, and balance what you're doing. Now, what does this mean about having the right attitude and generating the desire and energy to focus on your goals? Well, I can tell you that things don't fall out of the sky. There's not a magic jar of jobs that you can just reach your hand in and actually pull it out. Just like anything else, you have to take that step forward. You have to pursue and actually go after what you're going to do and what you're looking at. Because if you don't do that, and sometimes, it might seem risky, but one of the benefits that you have, particularly if you have a lot of faith, is someone's always watching over you and somebody's actually there to help you out. And if you do that, you have a good attitude, and you're always thinking, how can I go out and make a difference? How can I go out and get opportunities? Then things will come your way. Let me tell you a little story about what happened to me in law school. I went to law school with the intentions of becoming an international attorney. Sounded great. If I could go and practice law anywhere around the world or involving international clients, I thought that that would be great. Well, I went to law school. Actually, I went to Temple University in Philadelphia so that I could get involved in international law. I knew that they had a program in Japan that I wanted to participate in, so I thought that would be great. Well, during my first year of law school, I tried to set up an internship. And in doing so, I went through the Career Services office, and they told me, well, Matt, go to a big law firm that has an office overseas. You speak Japanese, so go to Tokyo. And so I was all excited and thinking that I could go ahead and do that. Well, I went ahead and sent out my resume talking about all of the things that I had done before law school. I'd worked at a law library. I'd gone and served my mission in Japan. After doing that, I'd actually gone back to Japan, and I'd worked for a large meteorological and hydrological instruments company, doing their international marketing and doing their technical translating. Now, at the time, I was 22 or 23. And you can imagine, on a side note, how young I look right now. You're probably all wondering. You can imagine what I looked like when I was 22 or 23. Because I can tell you I've got 15 years experience in Asia, and I also have 4 children, the oldest of which is 11. And at the time, I had just gotten married, and I was basically there working, negotiating contracts with foreign governments. You can probably imagine I looked like I was 12 at the time. But it was a great experience to actually build on. And then I worked for a very small company called Sony, doing their translation work in their professional audio and video department. But I had gone to law school with all of these wonderful things that I had done beforehand. And I thought that I could go out and get a great job with a great international law firm. Well, I sent off all of my resumes, and I got back rejection after rejection after rejection. Nobody wanted to hire me. And at that point in time, I was thinking, oh no, here goes my goal of becoming an international lawyer. I'm going to have to go out and practice family law or criminal law or something that I didn't want to do. Nothing wrong with those areas of the law. I just didn't want to do them. And so between getting down on my knees and asking for a lot of questions, I didn't know anybody. I didn't know how to go about doing it any other way than getting on with these firms in New York. Well, I decided that I was going to have the right attitude and that I was going to actually look around outside of the box and never give up on my goals. And so as I looked around, I came up with some creative strategies, and before you know it, I found a posting for a job, not one that I was qualified for, but a posting for a legal job out in the Western Pacific on a tropical island. I found out that that was part of the United States. Actually, there's a commonwealth out there called the Commonwealth of the Northern Mariana Islands, an island called Saipan. Instead of waiting around for a job to come, I decided I was going to have a new strategy. So I would go out, sent my resume out. 2 weeks later, I picked up the phone and introduced myself. Said, this is who I am, this is what I've done, and this is why you should hire me, based on what I've done before. Well, I had the right attitude, and I can tell you that I got that job on that tropical island in Saipan. And that the next summer, I spent 3 months doing very interesting international law stuff out on a tropical island with my wife and with my daughter, and it led to a great career. Something that led to working at a big law firm, that led to working as in-house general counsel for a telecommunications firm, and now I'm a professor of law actually at Temple. If I would have given up, if I would have settled for something less than my dreams, then I probably wouldn't be standing here before you today. And I can tell you that I wouldn't be teaching law for an American law school as well. So always have the right attitude. Nothing comes easy, but always have the right attitude, and always keep your focus on your goals. If you do that, you'll be able to find the right path for yourself. This is my catchphrase. When I was in high school, there was a scripture that I used to dwell on all the time. It's in 2 Nephi 2:11 that talks about opposition in all things, because things seemed rocky. Well, at some point in time, I decided I was going to get a more positive attitude and that I was going to come out with a new theme. And this is the theme that I want to talk about. And this is distinguish yourself. Because whether or not you realize it or not, that's probably one of the reasons why you're studying here at BYU or that you're here, is to actually go out and distinguish yourself. Make yourself different than those that are around you. Because I can tell you that if you're going out seeking a career, whether it's a career transfer or a new career, if your resume looks the same as everybody else's, it's going to get tossed in the trash. But if it looks different, then you're going to succeed. Imagine that you've got, let me go back here. Imagine that you're going through the desert and you're driving the car. The car's very, very old. It's one of these cars that a lot of college students drive around. You can probably buy it for $200, $300. The oil light is always going on, and you decide you're going to drive from Provo to California. You get to Las Vegas safely. As you're going through the Mojave Desert, you decide that you're going to sightsee a little bit, and so you go off on the road. Well, your car breaks down. It's 120 degrees. And you look in the back of the trunk, and you see one bottle of water. Got one bottle, and it's about this size. Well, imagine that next to it you have a 1-gallon bottle of water. Which one are you going to pick? You've got to find a way back to civilization. It's really hot, it's really thirsty. No cars are driving by on the road. Which one are you going to pick? The big one, the gallon one, or a small one like that? I would guess that everybody in the room is going to take the gallon. Now, somebody might come up with a creative answer to prove me wrong, but I'm guessing everybody's going to take that gallon of water. And in the game of life, the more that you have in your picture, the more that you have in your bottle, the more valuable you're going to be. And so in setting up your education and thinking about your career, the key is to get a gallon instead of maybe just a pint. So go out and distinguish yourself. And I'll talk to you a little bit about how you can go about doing that. But don't forget those 2 words. All right. Whoops, we're going the wrong way. All right. Since we just had the Olympics, and I'm a big sports fan, let's talk about training for your Olympics and how you might go ahead and do it. And I'm being very general, but I'm going to get specific on you really quick here. But what I want you to do is find your event. Find something that you can do better than others. How many of you have ever heard of Michael Jordan? Probably just about everybody has. Michael Jordan is a great example. He's probably one of the best basketball players who's ever lived, for those of you who don't know. He would go on the court and he could almost single-handedly win the entire game by himself. He was that gifted. He found something that he could do better than anybody else. Well, you know, after a while, he decided he was going to quit basketball. And what did he do? He went to play baseball. Was he better at baseball than anybody else? No, he wasn't. In fact, he went to AAA baseball, hit worse than other players did, and after a year or two, he gave up. He couldn't do it anymore. And so Michael Jordan, when he went and trained for his Olympics, he was very successful. But when he strayed from that path, he really struggled. Brought him a lot of frustration and a lot of things he couldn't do. And I can tell you from my own experience, I went to the University of Utah with my wife. And she's a wonderful lady, Japanese, and we had the pleasure of taking a math class together. Big mistake. I'm an attorney for a reason. I'm an attorney because I speak well, I write well, I can argue very well. But even though I do math fairly well, that's not my strength. And so as I sat in this math class with my wife and watched her get an A as I got a C+, I came to the quick conclusion that there's no way I could ever be an engineer, mathematician, scientist, because that's something that is not my event. And so I found my event. I challenge you to go out and find yours. And once you do, just go out and do it. Get the necessary education. Get the necessary experience. And the road might not be straight. It might be curved. It might be jagged. But if you find your event, you just go out and do it. If you try, you can do it. You really can, without giving up your goals and your dreams. Remember, nothing comes easy, and never give up. Let's talk to you about, like I said, we've been talking, generally. And I want you to keep those general concepts in your mind as I get a little more specific here. But let's navigate a little bit around campus. How does this relate to education? Well, I'm going to tell you, if I go the right way. Find the key to your career map. What's going to make you happy? That's something that you need to be asking. What's going to make you successful, if that's what you're actually doing? Now, success can be in terms of self-fulfillment, money, a variety of things, but finding out what's most important to you and actually going and doing it. I think that I found it in academics. Obviously, it's not money-based. It's more trying to help people out, but it's something that I've actually found. So asking yourself these questions. Should I go out and finish my degree? What exactly is the value of obtaining a university degree? It can be very, very expensive. I spent $100,000 on a legal education. What value was there? I can tell you there was quite a bit. Should I pursue a certification of some sort? Maybe if you're an attorney, you get a law license, CPA, some type of license, some type of special certification that might help you stand out, help you distinguish yourself, might be something that's in your best interest. Once you're done with undergraduate, should you go out and get an advanced degree, continuing education? Well, ask yourself all the questions that I posed to you before and think about some of these next few slides. Let's talk about education and unemployment. As you can see, the more education that you have, the better your chances are of avoiding that unemployment line or that unemployment situation that can cause a lot of grief. Some high school, the unemployment rate's about 10%. This is in 2002, I think. High school, 5.3. Some college, 4.8. Associate degree, 4.0. Bachelor's degree, 3.1. Master's degree, 2.8. Professional degree on top of that is even less. It's amazing how your chances of staying employed go up as you have more education. Why? Because you've gone out and distinguished yourself. Here's some more for you. Here's the average earnings of a full-time worker between 1975 and 1999. And you can notice the scale is on a 1. So if you're a high school graduate, that's where it starts as far as 1 and where your earnings go. If you have some college or a degree, you're slightly above 1. And over this course of, I think, 1975 and 1999, told you I'm not a math major, but about 22 years, it's rather stable. Not a high school graduate, it goes down even more. The interesting thing, though, is between 1975 and 1999, notice how the gap increases between some college and actually getting your degree. And then the gap increases even more if you have an advanced degree as opposed to a bachelor's degree. You'd think there was some wisdom when Gordon B. Hinckley is going out and telling you to get an education, saying that education really has a value. Even if you have to borrow a little bit of money and you do it judiciously, it's actually worth it. The numbers support the council. Even more interesting, why don't we break this down on a yearly scale? You have workers between 25 and 64 years. They took them all. Between 1997 and 1999, how much did they earn? Not a high school graduate, around $20,000. Bachelor's degree, somewhere between 45 and 52. Master's between about 55 and 62. Professional degree, 100,000 to 110. Doctoral degree between 81 and 89. Pretty significant gap. How about in your lifetime? How does that play out? In your lifetime, if you get a professional degree, you're looking at making $4.4 million. If you look at getting some college, you're getting 1.5. People often spend tons of time and money trying to figure out, how do I invest my money? Where do I put it to get the best return? Maybe education is a great place to put your money. Look at how it plays out in the long run. Now you can probably get a good idea of the dividends of study and hard work, what the value of an education is. So let's talk about translating your education into a satisfying career and talk to you a little more concretely about some of the things that you might think about. Does my career have to relate to my major? That's a question that people ask me quite a bit. I'm going into this. What do I do when I actually get out of school? You know, a 4-year education in college is great. But I can tell you, when I went to the University of Utah, I got 2 degrees. I got a Bachelor's of Science in Political Science, and I got a Bachelor's of Arts in Asian Studies. There aren't a lot of jobs that I saw for Asian Studies majors. Not a lot of jobs for people just with a political science degree. You have to look around, you have to scrap. And so your career doesn't necessarily have to be related to your major. But if it is, you can play that with even more value. What I did with it, of course, was I went to law school. I ended up practicing international law, which relates to political science. It also relates to Asian studies. Combined everything together, and it was something that was great. Now, if you're in something and it's not satisfying, it's making you sad, it's making you unhappy, you're not fulfilled, then it's never too late. But you need to go out and find something that is going to match your interests, match your talents, and match everything that you have to go ahead and do that. And if you do, you'll be blessed. You really will be. And you'll be rewarded. Another thing to consider is think about what the hot industries are. Not only short term, but long term. What's a hot industry right now? 1 to 5 years. How about 5 to 10 years out? How about 10 plus years? Really, if you sit down and think about it and take some time and do some research, you can figure it out. One stable industry, there's always going to be a need for people in the medical industry. Unfortunately, or fortunately as it may be, there's always going to be a need for lawyers, particularly here in the United States. There's always going to be a need for certain industries. Now, one thing, for example, if you take a look at manufacturing. Manufacturing probably isn't a hot industry here in the United States. Everything's been shipped off to Asia. Most of the factories are over in China now. So, you know, that's not something that you would want to go into. Computers. You look at how computers are changing very quickly. Ask yourself whether or not those things are actually needed. Now, where are you needed the most? That's also another thing. You know, what I've seen, and this is something that is a very interesting phenomenon as I've been around the world, really certain markets can be hot. And That's something to think about as well. It's amazing here in Utah, with the high quality of education that we have, how you might go and find people with master's degrees that are doing customer service for Verizon Wireless. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but they're probably not reaching their full potential. They want to be here in Utah, they like it here in Utah, and that's fine. But because of the area and because of the pool of people that are educated here, the two sometimes don't mix, and so it leads to a lot of frustration. Whereas if you took that master's degree and you went to another state, you went someplace where the economy was hot, you were more flexible, you looked outside of the box, then things might be even more productive. Now, I'm here today to talk to you as well about opportunities that are overseas. And things that are overseas are also very attractive as well. The fact that you have an education at a U.S. institution with a great reputation, hopefully your communication skills have been refined, hopefully you have the flexibility to go out and work overseas, the need might be there. And so there are opportunities all over the world that are waiting if you're actually there to go and you want to utilize those. I've been able to secure things in Japan, on a tropical island in the Western Pacific. I've worked in the Philippines. I've even worked here in the United States involving a lot of international things. And it's always been, okay, where have I been needed the most? And where would my talents and my interests be best served? Going the wrong way. All right, let's talk about finding your ideal career. Location, I talked about. Where is your value? You know, that's something that you need to be thinking about. Your personal interests and knowledge, your goals and objectives, human relationships, working environment, salary, responsibility, and actually going out and doing service. Now, how does that actually work? The location, I talked about it again. A lot of international students will come to BYU, and one of the goals and one of the purposes of BYU is to build you up so that you can go back to your home country and actually serve, actually bring that value back, have that American education that's actually there. Your personal interest and knowledge. It's something that you need to be comfortable with. Always have your goals and objectives. Human relationships, how does that work? Now, human relationships, when you're searching for a career, it's always good to find an industry that you're happy with. Find a place where the human relations are actually going to be good. And one of the ways to find an ideal career is to actually develop those relationships. It's amazing that if you go out, if you're friendly with everybody that's around you, you're willing to go out and open your mouth for whatever reason, you become distinguished from other people. And let me share with you a couple of stories about how I've actually seen this work, involving people here at BYU. One story actually involves somebody here in this room, believe it or not. And someone here in this room actually came and saw me at my office in Japan and talked to me about careers, talked to me about futures. She was interested in opening up her mouth, networking, making contacts. And as we sat in the office talking, she mentioned the fact that she had a friend that was looking for a teaching job. Well, because she had developed a human relationship with me, because she had made a good impression on me, I valued her recommendation of her friend to come and teach at Temple University's branch campus in Tokyo. So before you know it, I have the friend's resume. As Associate Dean, I'm taking it to the Human Relations Department and talking to them and saying, hey, I have a resume of this person. Well, it gets even better, because the answer that I got back was, well, we've already had that person in for an interview, and the person that interviewed her didn't want to hire her. And so we told her no. But I didn't stop there. I said, because of the relationship, because I trust this, you might want to give her a second look. So I said, why don't we send her to a different department in the university and see what happens? 3 weeks later, I had the friend in my office thanking me because she had just been offered a position with Temple University. Something that was totally and completely shut out. Now, because of a human relationship that was developed, she has a position at the university that I teach at. It's amazing what can happen if you actually do things like that. Let me share another story with you. And it's just simple being friendly and talking to people and getting out and showing people who you are. I spoke at BYU Law School about 18 months ago on how you can go out and become an international lawyer. One of the individuals that was sitting in the audience took the time to develop a human relationship with me. I have been in constant contact with him, advised him on how to go about landing a job with a law firm in Florida. Well, it gets even better than that. He knows someone that goes to the University of Georgia, one of his good friends. He introduces me to somebody at the University of Georgia. Last summer, I helped that individual get a job in Osaka, in Japan. Someone I didn't know, someone I've never met, but because of the human relationship that was actually there, it was something that was there. So I would encourage you in whatever industry you want to go in, whatever career you want, seek out those people that are in that area and go and make yourself friendly with them. Go and introduce yourself. Because I can tell you that words on a paper don't mean as much as a voice on the other side of the phone, or a friendly handshake, or an actual smile. Taking you back to the island of Saipan, I had an experience, and I learned a very good lesson from an attorney that's actually based there. He, coming out of law school, had a very difficult time finding a job. Didn't have great grades, didn't go to a great school, and he started to look around out of the box. He sent his resume off to the island, and about 20, 30 different law firms sent him letters back saying, thanks, but no thanks. We're not interested. Well, he didn't give up there. He thought, okay, if the piece of paper isn't going to do it, I'm going to do something a little differently. So he sent out the resumes again. This time in the cover letter, he said, I'm going to be visiting the island from November 1st to November 10th. During that time, I just like to pop into your office and talk to you about what it's like to practice law on the island. Just to meet you, just to introduce who I am. How many appointments do you think he got back from that? None. But he called on the phone. He followed up. He said, hey, did you get my resume? Did you get my cover letter? I'm going to be there in about a month and a half. Will you meet with me? They said yes. I'll meet with you. Before you know it, this gentleman, Matt is his name, had 12 interviews that were set up. 12 of them. Went out to the island. After he had the interview set up, that was when he bought his ticket. Didn't buy it before, but he went out to the island, and by the 7th interview, or informational meeting, he had 5 job offers. And he asked the people why. Why did you offer me a job? I sent you my resume 3 months ago and you rejected me. They said it was your commitment, it was your dedication, it was the fact that you were a face, that you were a voice, instead of a piece of paper. We get so many pieces of paper that come in the mail every single day that we don't know who is who. But the fact that you made the effort to come out and actually visit with us landed you the job. So I would encourage you to go out and do that. One of the things that we do in Japan, which is very interesting, is we have developed, at least the English-speaking expatriate community in Tokyo, has developed this mentor program. It's designed for students at BYU and BYU Hawaii and BYU Idaho. Japanese students that want to go back to Tokyo, we encourage them early on in their academic career to see us. If you want to go into accounting, we will pair you up with an accountant who is a member of the church who works in a very prestigious position in Tokyo. They will develop a mentor relationship where that person will counsel somebody else as far as where to look for a job, maybe make introductions, help you with your resume, help you with your interviewing skills, tell you how to actually get ahead. In fact, if somebody wants to practice law in Japan, I get that person, or another one of the attorneys in our state get that person. We have that program actually set up. I know a lot of countries and a lot of places don't have those programs, but the point is use your affiliation with BYU. Use the alumni network. Use members of the church to go out and find out where the jobs are. Find out where the opportunities are. How can you go about doing that? Well, if you're taking a vacation overseas or something like that, go to a ward and ask around. Before you go, visit the alumni office and see, like for example, who are the alumni that are in Japan? Do they have contacts? Can you get in touch with them? See maybe if the country has some type of mentor program like we actually have in Japan. Go out, look for those things, develop the human relationships, and it's amazing what will actually happen. Now, these are some other considerations that you want to be thinking about in your career. Working environment, what type of company do you want to be in? Salary, how important is that to you? Should it be everything? In my mind, it shouldn't be. How much responsibility do you want? How do you actually go out and get that responsibility? And service. Service is, an interesting concept. Talk about it all the time, but it's amazing that if you go out and you find organizations, companies or whatever, and you volunteer your time, if you do service, how you can distinguish yourself through that. How you can make a great name for yourself and get the places that you want to go. So it's something that you should be considering in going out and finding your ideal career. All right. These are some of the things that you also can do. Find out whether or not you're on the right path. What I would do is encourage you with your goals to actually write them down. Now, I'm terrible at this, but it's something that it's always good if you have them to take them out and look at them and say, hey, how does this job or how does this class or how does this major or how does this thing that I'm doing right now relate to where I want to go in my career? Take the experiences you have and tell a story. Tell a story about how it's going to give other people value. And you can do that by writing down your goals and checking, kind of like a to-do list. Also, ask yourself, are you taking the best route possible? Plan ahead. Map the route. Investigate ways to actually realize your dreams. Now, like I said, it's not going to come easy, but it'll be amazing how things will go a lot smoother. Another thing, don't be afraid to ask for directions. I know my wife kills me when I'm driving someplace and we get lost because I refuse to ask directions. You hear jokes that males do that all the time. I'm one of those people. I don't ask for directions. But when it comes to your career, don't be afraid to actually ask for directions. Ask your family. Say, hey, what are my talents? What are my strong things? What are my interests that you've seen? I did that as a 7-year-old. I'd ask everybody, hey, what should I be when I grow up? I told my dad when I was 5 that I wanted to be a fire hydrant because fire hydrants look cool. He tried to discourage me from that. And so I said, what do I do good? And he said, Matt, you talk a lot. I would just go and barge in on people's houses in the neighborhood and talk to them and carry up a conversation. So I said, well, why don't you think about doing something along those lines? So I planned ahead. Friends told me the same thing. Ask teachers. Don't be afraid to actually sit down and pray. It's amazing what will come out of those things if you actually do that. Don't be a crab. Crabs climb in their shells, right? They hide from things. They don't come out. Come out of your shell. Open up your mouth. It's amazing what happens once you actually do that, and you'll be friendly. Let me relate a story that happened to me as far as being a crab. It was something that I had to learn, I had to try to do, but it ultimately led to my goal and where I wanted to go. I was a third-year law student in Philadelphia, and I was just coming back from spending some time in Japan studying. I had had some work experience in Saipan on the tropical island, and I was looking to get some type of more experience in Philadelphia involving international work. And instead of being a crab, I decided to use a lot of the things that I'm professing to you today and go out and actually talk to people. And one of the things that I did was I walked into a temporary legal placement agency. Now, why I did that, I'm not sure, but I was just looking for unique and creative ideas. And my idea was if I introduced myself to enough people, told them what I was about and what I wanted to do, then hopefully somewhere along the line an opportunity would spring out that I could jump at. So I went to these temporary placement agencies and introduced myself. Said, I'm Matt Wilson, this is who I am, this is what I do. And I explained to them what my goals were, and I said, I'm interested in finding international work. Can you help me? And they looked at me. I went to 3 of them, and they went to me and said, no, we can't. We don't get international stuff. Maybe every once in a while, things will come from Europe. And I said, well, this is who I am. This is what I want to do. I said, I'll follow up with you in a month. And hopefully, you'll have something. Something comes up, please let me know. Well, because I was a face and because I'd actually gone out and talked, 3 weeks later, the phone rang from somebody that told me that it was impossible to have any international work. The phone rang saying, Matt, we have this big matter. A big law firm has just sued a Japanese company. Would you be interested in the work? I went, sure, let me talk to him. 3 days later, the phone rang again from another one of the temporary agencies saying, Matt, we have some legal work involving a Japanese company. Would you be interested? I went, is it the same as this one? They said, no, it's different. I went, wow. 3 days later, I kid you not, the phone rang from the third one. All 3 of these had told me that it was impossible, but now I have 3 opportunities to actually go and do work during law school that's international related, that relates to Japan, that relates to my interest. Because I took the initiative, because I took the step forward, because I actually went out and introduced and basically sold myself, my marketable skills, said, hey, this is what I am. Well, it's interesting because the opportunity that I took turned in to be a 5-year experience. I worked as an intern my last year of college, and at the time I was getting ready to go and practice law in Florida, the firm asked me to stay. I said, no, I want to go to Florida. Looking forward to the sun and the beaches. Not that I ever got to take advantage of those, but looking forward to the sun and the beaches. So I'm going to go. But I've got an idea. Why don't you use me as co-counsel? I will, from Florida, work for you on this case. They said, hey, that's a great idea. So for the next 4 years after that, I worked on a $250 million lawsuit involving a Japanese company. And as other people were doing normal stuff, I was flying to California. I was flying to Japan. I was meeting interesting people, doing interesting things. It's amazing how if you follow your goals, pursue your dreams, if you're not afraid to ask, if you plan ahead, that yes, there are rough patches, but it's amazing how one step will build upon another and you can get to the actual place where you want to go. I can tell you that because I'm now back as a professor of law. And one of the reasons why I'm a professor of law at the age that I'm at is because I was able to take all of these opportunities and build one upon another. Don't give up on your desired destination. Make sure that you obtain the necessary education and that you're continuously seeking to go out and learn. Those are things that I would encourage you to do. So what can you do now? If you are in the middle of your studies, go out and try and secure part-time or seasonal employment. Stuff that you can then later highlight and say, hey, I have this value. I have this experience. Some of it, it's great if you're getting money for it, but even if you're not, get that job that might give you money, working at a grocery store or a restaurant or something. Go out and get something on top of it that's going to help get you to actually where you want to go. Internships, another thing to do. Volunteer work. Maybe taking practical courses. Coming to seminars like this. And actually going out and networking. All of these things will hopefully lead you down that path that you actually want to go. And it's amazing that with the help of your friends, families, teachers, and everybody around you, the places, the people, and the opportunities that you're actually able to go out and get. And so I know a lot of this has been vague and general, but that's a great place to start. And then as we talked more, we got more and more specific. And those are the things that if you actually do, and if you plan out your route, that you will actually reach that destination. And that's what I would encourage you to go out and do, and use me as a resource. Use people around you that are a resource. And I would encourage you to do that.